The Daredevil trailer is finally here, but did you know Daredevil has faced some of the most insane villains in Marvel history? Some are terrifying, some are just plain ridiculous, and a few will leave you speechless. Today, we're breaking down every Daredevil villain you need to know, but before hit like to start. Kingpin, Wilson Fisk is the embodiment of power through control, often blurring the lines between order and chaos. He doesn't just run the criminal underworld, he manipulates the very systems of politics and business to ensure his dominance. His sheer size and brute force are matched only by his cunning intellect, making him not just a threat physically, but an enemy that challenges Daredevil's moral code. His cold, calculated actions are aimed at breaking Matt Murdock, not just as Daredevil, but as a person. Bullseye. Bullseye is a psychopathic marksman who takes pleasure in turning anything into a lethal weapon. His unhinged behavior is driven by an insatiable need to destroy, particularly Daredevil. Bullseye doesn't just kill for money, he kills to prove that he's the best. His obsession with Daredevil turns their battles into brutal psychological games, where his joy comes from not just killing, but causing extreme pain and emotional turmoil. His precision is chilling, but his chaotic mind is even more dangerous. Elektra. Elektra is the tragic hero and assassin who constantly teeters between love and violence. Her complex relationship with Daredevil defines her, torn between her assassin past and the person she longs to be. Her unpredictability makes her a dangerous ally and a terrifying enemy, whether she's fighting for redemption or falling deeper into darkness. Elektra's presence challenges Matt Murdock both physically and emotionally, often forcing him to question his own capacity for love and violence. The Owl. Leland Owlsley, aka the Owl, isn't a villain driven by brute strength, but by intellect and pride. He sees himself as a criminal mastermind, though his eccentric behavior often undermines his effectiveness. Obsessed with power, he manipulates others like pawns in a twisted game of chess. Despite his odd appearance and obsession with birds, his cunning nature makes him a formidable opponent, using schemes and political influence to try and dominate Hell's Kitchen. The Hand. The Hand is an ancient, secretive ninja organization that views life as a fleeting thing, making them unafraid of death and resurrection. They operate in the shadows, performing unspeakable acts to maintain their influence, including manipulating people like Electra into becoming weapons. The Hand represents a darker, more mystical threat to Daredevil, one that doesn't just rely on combat, but on secret rituals. Purple Man. Kilgrave. Purple Man is a master manipulator, capable of controlling anyone's mind with a single command. His lack of morality is terrifying, as he doesn't view people as individuals but as tools to fulfill his own desires. His unpredictable and disturbing behavior makes him a unique threat to Daredevil, not physically, but mentally. The psychological toll he inflicts on his victims, including Daredevil, shows just how powerful manipulation can be when combined with a complete lack of empathy. Mysterio. Mysterio, the master of illusions, is all about bending reality to his will. He doesn't rely on physical strength or powers, but instead on his ability to create elaborate illusions that make his enemies question what's real. His fights with Daredevil are less about physical combat and more about mental warfare, where Mysterio pulls Daredevil into a twisted world of his own creation. His ability to make Daredevil lose touch with reality makes him one of the most psychologically damaging villains in the Daredevil universe. Stilt Man. Stilt Man is the perfect example of how a villain can be both ridiculous and dangerous. His mechanical stilts give him an absurd advantage over his enemies, making him a comical threat at first glance. But beneath the absurdity lies a man with an inflated ego and a determination to prove his worth as a criminal mastermind. His fights are both comical and deadly, as his bizarre technology makes him an unpredictable foe that Daredevil can't always prepare for. Black Tarantula. The Black Tarantula is a master martial artist with enhanced strength, agility, and reflexes, making him a deadly adversary for Daredevil. But what makes him unique is his conflicting sense of honor and desire for power. He is a character with complex motivations. He's not inherently evil, but his ambition to lead and control often leads him to clash with Daredevil. His martial arts prowess makes him a fierce opponent, but his internal conflict adds layers to his character as he navigates the fine line between heroism and villainy. Mr. Fear. Mr. Fear, aka the man who can make anyone feel their deepest fears, uses fear-inducing chemicals to manipulate his victims into terror. His greatest weapon isn't his strength, but his ability to mentally incapacitate his enemies, making them relive their worst nightmares. His presence is terrifying because he doesn't need to physically overpower Daredevil, he just needs to make him afraid, and in doing so, he exposes the vulnerabilities and fears Daredevil has struggled to bury. Typhoid Mary. Typhoid Mary is a walking paradox, a seductress, a killer, and a victim of her own fractured mind. With dissociative identity disorder, She shifts between the sweet and innocent Mary and the violent, chaotic Typhoid. Her unpredictability makes her terrifying one moment. She's a caring figure. The next, she's setting the world on fire. For Daredevil, fighting her is as much about facing her brutality as it is about understanding her broken psyche. Gladiator, Melvin Potter, aka Gladiator, is a villain torn between his violent persona and his desire to be a good man. A master craftsman, he builds his own deadly weapons and armor, becoming a terrifying physical force. Despite his strength, his mental fragility and guilt over his actions make him one of Daredevil's most tragic foes. He's a monster of his own making, constantly battling the urge to be better but always falling back into chaos. Stalker, a spectral assassin who can phase through objects and kill with a single touch. Stalker is as haunting as he is deadly. His eerie silence and ability to appear out of nowhere make him a nightmare for Daredevil. He thrives on fear and enjoys making his enemies feel powerless. For Daredevil, fighting him is like battling death itself, as Stalker constantly reminds him how close he is to losing everything. The Jester. The Jester is what happens when you mix a failing comedian with homicidal tendencies. Driven by resentment and a need to prove his worth, he turns to crime and chaos. His antics might seem silly, but his unpredictability and cunning make him a genuine threat. He's the dark mirror to Daredevil's seriousness, using tricks, traps, and mind games to leave Matt questioning his every move. The Rose. The Rose is a mysterious and calculating crime lord who operates in the shadows. And like other villains, he avoids direct confrontation, relying on manipulation and strategy to dismantle Daredevil's world. His calm demeanor hides a ruthless streak, making him a dangerous enemy who strikes when Matt least expects it. His intrigue lies in his ability to remain an enigma while pulling the strings behind the scenes. Lady Bullseye. Inspired by the original Bullseye, Lady Bullseye is a master assassin with a ruthless efficiency that rivals her predecessor. And like Bullseye's chaotic energy, she is cold, calculated, and utterly lethal. Her precision and discipline make her a terrifying foe for Daredevil, as she doesn't fight with emotion, she fights to win. Nuke. Nuke is a soldier turned experiment, a man turned into a super soldier but left mentally unstable by his enhancements. With an American flag tattooed on his face, Nuke is the embodiment of blind patriotism gone wrong. His rampages are brutal and destructive, but his tragic backstory as a victim of the government's experiments makes him more than just a mindless brute. Daredevil's battles with him are a collision of ideals: control versus chaos, morality versus blind obedience. The Gladiatrix, Angela Del Toro, a former FBI agent turned villain, becomes the Gladiatrix after inheriting the mystical white tiger amulet. Once an ally to Daredevil, she is corrupted by the power of the amulet and becomes a ruthless, vengeful warrior. Her betrayal stings Matt deeply, and their battles are fueled by raw emotion as Daredevil tries to save her from herself while fighting for his own survival. Iari. Iari is a terrifying villain because he's essentially Daredevil's equal. With enhanced senses similar to Matt's, but none of the morality, Iari is a sadistic fighter who uses Daredevil's own strengths against him. And like Matt, he has no compunctions about killing, making their battles intensely brutal and unpredictable. Ikari's very existence forces Daredevil to question whether his abilities are truly a gift or a curse. Tombstone. Tombstone is a brutal enforcer with superhuman strength and an unrelenting drive to crush anyone in his path. His albino skin and emotionless demeanor give him an almost otherworldly aura. While he's typically a mercenary, his ruthless tactics and lack of remorse make him a dangerous opponent. For Daredevil, fighting Tombstone is like battling a wall of sheer force, where every blow feels like it could be his last. Scourge of the Underworld. Scourge isn't a typical villain, he's a vigilante who murders criminals, blurring the line between hero and villain. His actions force Daredevil to confront the morality of his own mission. Should Matt sympathize with Scourge's cause or stop him at all costs? Their conflict is a philosophical one as much as a physical one, making Scourge a unique and thought-provoking adversary. The Eel is a slippery, cunning criminal who uses his agility and electrical abilities to outwit his enemies. While not the most fearsome foe, his ability to evade capture makes him an enduring thorn in Daredevil's side. His arrogance and overconfidence often lead to his downfall, but his unique fighting style keeps Daredevil constantly on edge. Hammerhead. Hammerhead is a mob boss with a steel-reinforced skull and an old-school gangster mentality. He's brutal, relentless, and utterly loyal to his criminal code. Hammerhead doesn't just rely on brute force, he's also a master tactician, orchestrating elaborate schemes to take down his enemies. Snakehead. Snakehead is a human trafficker with a penchant for cruelty. running a network of misery that Daredevil feels morally compelled to dismantle. Snakehead's callous disregard for human life and his cunning ability to avoid capture make him a particularly loathsome villain. For Daredevil, battling Snakehead isn't just about stopping a criminal, it's about saving countless innocent lives, making their confrontations deeply personal. Echo, Maya Lopez, aka Echo, starts as an enemy of Daredevil, manipulated by Kingpin into believing Matt killed her father. A deaf warrior with photographic reflexes, she can perfectly mimic any fighting style, making her a formidable opponent. Their battles are visually stunning, with Echo matching Daredevil move for move. Her eventual realization of the truth and redemption arc make her a deeply compelling character. The Surgeon. The Surgeon is a sadistic doctor who experiments on his victims, leaving them mutilated and broken. His obsession with perfecting people through painful procedures makes him one of Daredevil's most disturbing foes. For Matt, fighting the Surgeon isn't just about stopping his horrific crimes, it's about confronting someone who twists the concept of healing into something monstrous. The Snakeroot, an offshoot of the Hand. The Snakeroot is a secretive cult dedicated to dark rituals and assassinations. They are even more dangerous than their parent organization, combining mystical powers with deadly combat skills. Their battles with Daredevil are often steeped in supernatural terror, forcing him to fight not just for his life but for his very soul. Bushw Walker. Bushw Walker is a former priest-turned-assassin, with a cybernetic arm that can transform into a gun. His twisted sense of justice makes him a unique threat. He believes he's doing God's work by targeting sinners, including Daredevil. Their fights are intense, with Bushw Walker's firepower and Daredevil's agility creating explosive confrontations. His descent into violence and madness makes him a tragic yet terrifying figure. Madcap. Madcap is a villain driven by chaos, possessing a healing factor that makes him nearly indestructible. His lack of fear or consequence makes him wildly unpredictable. He fights Daredevil not out of malice but for sheer amusement, creating chaos for its own sake. Mangol. Mangol is a tragic experiment gone wrong, a man transformed into a monstrous, bull-like creature. Once a petty criminal, he was manipulated into becoming a test subject, leaving him physically deformed and emotionally shattered. While his brute strength makes him a formidable foe, it's his desperation for acceptance and revenge that makes his clashes with Daredevil both brutal and heartbreaking. Shotgun. Shotgun is a mercenary armed with high-tech weaponry and a love for destruction. And like Daredevil, who values precision and control, Shotgun thrives on chaos and overkill. His brash personality and excessive firepower make him a loud, destructive force that challenges Daredevil's agility and tactical mindset. Their battles are explosive, chaotic, and full of collateral damage. The Wild Boys. This duo of anarchists thrives on causing mayhem in the streets of Hell's Kitchen. Jet and Spit have no grand ambitions. They simply enjoy destruction for its own sake. Their unpredictability and reckless behavior force Daredevil to constantly think on his feet. Fighting them is less about strength and more about containing their chaos before it spreads. The Enforcers, a trio of old-school thugs. The Enforcers are all about teamwork. Ox brings brute strength, Fancy Dan is the martial artist, and Montana uses his lasso skills to keep Daredevil at bay. While they aren't the most powerful villains individually, their coordinated attacks and loyalty to each other make them a persistent nuisance in Daredevil's life. Silvermane. Silvermane is a crime lord who refuses to let age slow him down. After undergoing cybernetic enhancements, he becomes a mix of mafia boss and machine, making him nearly unstoppable. His calculated ruthlessness, combined with his advanced strength and durability, makes him a unique challenge for Daredevil, as he represents the unrelenting power of organized crime evolving into something even deadlier. Matador. The Matador is a flamboyant villain who uses his skills as a former bullfighter to outmaneuver his enemies. His arrogance and theatricality make him appear laughable at first, but his agility and precision in combat quickly turn him into a real threat. Coyote. Coyote is a twisted villain with the ability to teleport body parts, creating grotesque and horrifying battles. He's a sadistic criminal who enjoys torturing his victims, often forcing Daredevil to confront gruesome and morally complex situations. Fighting Coyote is like facing a nightmare come to life, as Matt struggles to outmaneuver someone who can literally tear his opponents apart piece by piece. King Cobra. King Cobra is a slithery, snake-like villain with enhanced flexibility, speed, and venomous strikes. His snake-like movements make him difficult to pin down, and his venomous personality makes him as dangerous psychologically as he is physically. Daredevil's battles with King Cobra are often a test of endurance, as Matt must find a way to outlast the villain's relentless, slithering attacks. The Fixer holds a special place in Daredevil's history, as he's the man responsible for orchestrating the death of Matt Murdock's father. His actions set Matt on the path to becoming Daredevil, making him more than just a villain. He's the origin of Daredevil's pain. Confronting the Fixer is an emotional journey for Daredevil, as it's not just about justice but vengeance. And that's a wrap. Daredevil's villains prove not all bad guys wear capes, some wear stilts or desperately need therapy. Who do you think is the dumbest? Drop it in the comments. Before you go, check out this videos for more epic content.